Welcome to the Ripples of Perception series. I'm Lisa Hayes.
I'm Iva Nasr.
We're so excited you're here joining us because just as casting a pebble into a pond creates ripples, so do we as we go through life.
Please stay with us through the series as Lisa and myself, in each segment, share a variety of stories, downloads, and experiences that enrich our understanding of perception.
Are you ready to get started?
More than ready.
Iva?
Lisa.
I am feeling very sprightly. Is that a word? I mean, sprightly.
It is now, and not only is it maybe a newly made up word, but you look newly made up too. You look sprightly.
Okay. Well, the definition of whatever that word is I feel, I don't know what it is. I feel like a new beginning, like energized. Maybe it's because the equinox is coming up soon. I feel the luck of the Irish because, St. Patrick's Day is coming up
Oh,
soon.
that's right. That's right. Yes. You were a step ahead of me on that one.
And whatever. Now, the pot of gold that the Irish talk about, and that relates to our topic today.
As you said that.
Money, moolah, money. And also bringing in the concept of time, because so many of us have said in our lives, gosh, I've got the time, but I don't have the money. Or other people will say, I've got the money finally, yet I don't have the time.
Mm-hmm.
What would this world be like, Iva, if we weren't constrained or limited by the concept that we have been brought up with about money and time?
Mm-hmm.
I would just love to live a life where I don't know what it would look like, actually. I don't know how it would feel. Yet I know it's possible to live a life without money and time. What would that be?
And I'll just interject something that I promise is not for this conversation. However, I will not feel complete not mentioning it. That when you said, I wish, and then of course, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking your dreams for society, your trademark. And so I heard you basically saying my dream for society is, and then I filled in, and this is the part that I don't want to talk too much about today, but I do want to highlight that this dream for society for me also brings harmony and equilibrium across all segments of societies and cultures. So not only do we find creative and elevated and conscious ways of experiencing time and money, we also help bring poverty out of poverty, distribution of resources. So I know that's a whole other conversation, but I have to at least drop that in before we go off on our tangent.
Right. And if money and time were not a limit or limitation, then everyone would have equal access to all the money and time they needed, thereby nullifying that money and time are even a component of our society, totally equalizing everything.
Exactly. So maybe enough said on that.
I agree. And what would the world look like? I mean, we could collaborate. We could wake up in the morning and we'd have everything we need. I mean, if you have all the money and time you need, then you have everything taken care of and you can start creating what is commensurate with your gifts and talents that then will in turn enhance the abundance of all. What this world, my dream for society, this has got to be attainable.
Listen, I feel like some of us already have made changes in our lives and lifestyle, honoring these principles and going after them. And again, not to derail this conversation too much, at least, there are cultures and certain spots on this planet currently where they, as a society, measure with gross happiness. So it is possible to bring these notions into the politics and the economy. It's not a far-fetched idea to collectively decide to create and set a tone from the top down into everyday people, everyday lives, that says this is how, as a society, we can live and coexist. So, wow, I had no idea that I would feel so stimulated at that level, right? But measuring and guiding an entire society, people, through gross happiness measuring and putting certain protocols and requirements, and even the way people show up to work and how long their lunch time is, the siestas that some places, I think maybe France, maybe Spain, I don't know, I don't want to claim anything for certain. But anyway, so there is that possibility.
Yeah, no, France and Spain. I mean, I've been to Paris. They have like 2-hour siestas during the middle of the day. Even the school kids come home that long.
Guess what? You get to eat, hopefully with that kind of mentality, eat well, still have time to digest and not go back to work when you're digesting. And that's when the afternoon snooze starts hitting and you just want to close your eyes, but you have to prepare for an executive meeting or whatever it is, right? So anyway, very interesting.
Well, I love this idea that it's already taking place on certain places of our planet, that the culture or the society, I don't really want to even say culture, because in the word culture is cult. So it's like a programming, yet the society is measuring abundance vis-a-vis happiness. Ooh, how awesome. And again, to parlay on what you're saying with that, it is a mindset, it is a perception. And even though we're ingrained and immersed in our world of being limited and controlled by money and time, it's up to us to decide how much we want that to control us in any given day. So we can wake up with the freedom to create with our gifts and talents, rather than to be limited by having to work at a job because of the money and not having time to create from the aspect of our gifts and talents.
You know, both you and me have very special stories that we've shared in multiple conversations with our listeners over time, in how we made changes and took leaps of faith in changing career, lifestyle, going into something that falls under, the umbrella of follow your heart. It took courage and trust and creativity and the right network of people and mentors. Anyway, there's a structure for it that is available once we make that leap or make the choice. It doesn't always have to be a leap. It can be progressive and you can start something while you're still showing up on another job. So it doesn't always have to be dramatic. You probably experience this as well in your coaching practice when you help people. I know I do for years. One of the most common questions that come to me in seeking guidance and assistance: how can I do what I love and still be able to sustain myself? I'm not so happy on this job. I'm so ready for. So it's like how to follow that calling and how to be able to experience time and money in a different way. So you have, right? Help people with that. Does that question come to you as
Yes,
well?
yes. And the idea behind that is to understand that the human condition is such that no matter how much money we make or how much money we have in our savings account or not, we're always going to be fearful we're not going to have enough tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
So the fear of the unknown, the fear of losing what we have is debilitating. So the idea of leaving a job that's secure and gives us a certain amount of income to pay the rent and the groceries and things is extremely disconcerting and fearful for people. I get that. And however, part of the mindset and perception is that we can look at it differently. The amount in our savings account or checking account, or the amount of income we're making in the new venture or new job, is enough. We can let go of the fear that it's not going to be enough.
I have a special story. If this
Yes,
is a good
please,
time to share
please.
it.
Yes, perfect.
Because when you just said whatever money we have in the checking account or savings account, immediately my mind went to a moment in time. This was a number of years ago when Lisa, it wasn't for me even about money in a checking account. It was just what few dollars I had in my pocket.
Mm.
Around that time, very briefly, I had followed a calling
Mhm.
to do what I love. And I was learning new things that I didn't realize I love. This is when I was opening up to what we call quote unquote channeling and just being connected in this more ethereal way. And long story short, I moved from one place geographically to another, complete leap of faith. I just went for it. And around that time, with the influx of downloads and information and guidance that was coming to me, came this message to take what little structured life I had with my clients. You sign up for an hour, this is how much it is, kind of thing, as modest as it was anyway at the time. Even with that, I received the message to let go of the structure, that it is time for me to trust in a way unforeseen, probably in all parallel realities happening for me at the time, a trust that I had never had to dip into beyond the trust that I had used up to that point in my life. Okay. And I was delicately directed to forego any structure and to open up to a donation scale.
Mm.
And it was at a time when I was still starting from scratch again and building a clientele base. So it's not like I had, well, I know that I already have so many people coming in. So even if minimum contribution was made, I can still at least pay my bills. It wasn't even that. So it was a real leap. And just one example in what happened in that time period, and then I'm going to turn it back over to you. One day, I was in Boone, North Carolina. I had moved there and I was at my favorite little coffee shop, and I was standing in line waiting my turn, had $1 in my pocket and maybe some change. So I thought, I'm going to get my cup of coffee. And this is how much I trust. That even with that $1 in my pocket left, I was going to get my coffee. And there was a woman in front of me. and she was now placing her order, and she went to pay, pulled something out of her pocket, and then was looking for more. She thought she had more on her. And guess what? She was $1 short. I was already in a different mind. I wasn't so fixated on, oh no, I'm about to spend my last dollar on a cup of coffee. The generosity in my heart, and this is what I do, at least. I was going to say we do, but I'm like, of course, if someone in front of me in line is short $1, I'm going to give them $1. I whipped that dollar out of my pocket and I said, here,
Oh, wow.
just take this.
Oh my goodness.
And she's like, no, really. I'm like, come on, no worries, either pay it forward, or when I see you next time, I'll let you buy me a cup of coffee. And as soon as I said that, and she's like taking the dollar, I thought, that's when I realized, oh no, I just gave my last dollar. So without saying anything, I just quietly got out of line and went on with my day. Went to the post office. I had a P.O. box at the time. And I'm like, wow, what just happened? There was this feeling of total ease and comfort, though. I can't describe it. There was no fear. There was an awareness, but no fear.
Mm-hmm.
So I opened my P.O. box. I remember so clearly. P.O. Box 135. That just came to me. But the key, opened it. There were few pieces of mail in there. The very top one looked like a bill, and I looked at it and like, oh man, okay. Did a quick affirmation of trust, opened it, and I forget exactly what it was for, but I do remember it was $33.50 or 52, something like that. But I remember clearly because that number said something to me. I went to the next piece of mail, and at that time is when I started relinquishing a structured service menu and went to donation scale.
Mm-hmm.
And I opened the next piece of mail, and it was a card with a check in it. And it was from a woman who had had a phone session with me. She lived in Colorado at the time. It was a number of weeks prior. I had totally forgotten that she told me when she can, she will send me something. The check, Lisa, $33.55.
My
You
goodness.
can't even make this up.
No, you can't.
You can't make it up. So right there, that bill was covered.
Mm-hmm. You have a couple cents left.
Couple cents left, right?
Which is your pot of gold, if you perceive it.
So
that way.
now you go back to where you took us with the pot of gold. I'm not going to say anything else and what came next. I mean, you can only imagine that was just the beginning of a series of confirmations that required daily letting go and surrender on my part. However, it became easier and easier.
Yeah. Your ability to relinquish your last dollar literally to a person in need without second thought and not even remembering it was your last dollar tunes you in. Here's my feeling: tunes you into another parallel earth with higher frequencies that is available to us.
Absolutely.
Which gave you accessibility to your P.O. box, mailbox at that time. And had you not been in that higher frequency, the story would have played out a lot differently. You may have gotten a $33.50 bill, of course. You may have also gotten $100 and something else dollar bill and no check from the lady in Colorado. What I feel, listeners, again, and what I've experienced and what you just experienced, you said, when you gave that dollar to that woman, you felt immensely peaceful. You weren't embarrassed about leaving the line. You didn't think anything about it. No. You just went on with your day, went to the post office or the P.O. box, mailbox, And again, you're in a different parallel earth that is aligned now with that peaceful frequency and the frequency that is more abundant, whereby the money doesn't control you or feel that you are living in lack. And so that's what happened. And what synchronicity! It showed you were on the right path with your coaching and the donations, the heart donations, whatever. So that's what I'm picking up around that. I love that. And then just one quick listeners, you'll know if you've listened to any of the previous podcasts, a few times we've talked about how I left the lobbying and lawyering after 35 years and segued into a new life of coaching and intuitive readings and things like that. And the abundance of the daily life, even though the money wasn't coming in, the abundance of peacefulness, putting me in, again, what I think is a parallel earth and trusting that I'll have enough.
And especially you've mentioned to me, correct me if I'm wrong, that not only did you leave drastically from one career to another, at your peak though, I mean, in terms of income, and with a lot of times that's what might keep a lot of people, and this is not a judgment call by any means, totally understandable, could have kept you going because you were at the peak, right?
I was at the peak, and to jump off a cliff like that seemed illogical and maybe irresponsible. Just didn't make any sense. However, somewhere in the depths of my heart, I knew it was the right thing to do and the right time.
That's the key.
So getting back to time as a component of this control in our world, as well as money. It was the right time. And I know, I mean, I have no way of proving it, yet I do feel that had I stayed on the course of lobbying and lawyering at the Indiana State House, I may have continued to make the money, yet I feel like I might have gotten embroiled in some kind of a scandal. And I feel like that I really didn't have the scandal, that I didn't really feel like I had any culpability, yet I would be embroiled in it because I did represent casinos. And
oh wow,
yeah, and there's always something going
money
around.
casinos.
Yeah,
Interesting.
the jackpot.
Like there's like layer.
Oh my gosh.
Layer.
Yeah, I feel like there was something regarding that. In fact, one of my friends and fellow lobbyists, lawyers, did get in trouble in the casino arena,
which is probably not an unlikely story.
Yeah,
in general,
it's not
in that world and in the workings of that
yeah,
world.
I mean, he actually plea bargained and but still had some time he had to spend in federal prison. So these things are happening. I also feel like my health would have gone drastically downward.
I was thinking about that exact thought.
So since I left, I feel like not only do I feel more peaceful, stress is almost gone. I feel joyful a lot of the times. I'm very healthy. I'm just abundantly healthy, it feels like.
I would say so. I would say so. Yes.
How do you, again, the society whereby they measure their abundance by happiness, we can also measure our abundance in a lot of other ways, by health, wisdom. There are so many components in our daily life that we ignore and take for granted, yet it's part of our entire picture of abundance.
So I am 100% not going to give a name here. Some listeners might recognize who I'm talking about. There is, at the time he was a congressman, and years ago, actually in those same years when I was in Boone and going through these changes and learning how to align and synchronize more with those universal forces of abundance
Yes.
and health and wealth in that
Mhm.
way. He was running for presidency, and the only time in my life, and probably who knows what the future brings, but probably the only time ever that I worked wholeheartedly on a campaign for someone. So much so that we won the primary for him in our little town at the time. That's a whole other story. The reason I am remembering this, because one of the main things in his campaign, and he's one to stand behind what he says. You pulled a card earlier, walk your talk, right?
Mhm.
He was rallying for this country to start a Department of Peace.
Mm.
If we're having a Department of Defense, fine. There's a place for that. It's not going to go away overnight. Wars are not going to stop overnight. But just that idea. Now, there was, as you can imagine, huge backlash and all of that. However, I feel like that voice is still active and it might still come back into the realm of our world and our society, where maybe we might be ready to rally a little bit more for something like that. But just imagine how, what kind of jobs that will open for people to wake up and feel like, I'm going to work at the Department for Peace or of Peace today. It gives purpose, it gives motivation for people when you feel like, not only do I have to work and make enough money to feed my family or to enjoy my next vacation, but to feel like connected with a calling and a purpose that's serving a bigger cause. And I feel like that's, in so many words, what you were sharing, and one of the main reasons you made this big change in your life, right?
Exactly. I realized that I no longer wanted to tune into the frequency of that earth plane. I wanted to tune into a parallel earth without that daily grind that I was experiencing at the Indiana State House. And now it's in the background of my life. I'm aware that the shenanigans at all of the political arenas around the country are still going on, yet it's not in the forefront. It's not part of my daily life. It's as if it's faded away and I'm tuning into a parallel earth, so to speak, that has Department of Peace rather than Department of War or Department of Defense. And that's, I think, the key, just like what you described in your story, where you so remarkably and beautifully gave your last dollar to this lady who needed a cup of coffee. You entered into this frequency that is beyond really our understanding. And that opened up miracles to happen that day, and synchronization with the numbers of those, the bill and the check.
Yes.
And this is what can happen in our life. And the key is not to feel controlled and manipulated and fearful of the lack of money. The key is to feel and perceive we have enough.
Yes.
I think the main message here, Iva, as we wrap up, is we're inviting the listeners, despite whether they're down to their last dollar or the last $100, or whether they have millions in their bank account, to know that the human condition of fearing we don't have enough is a choice, and we can choose a feeling that we have enough.
So, this is my version of wrapping up. I had a full schedule of clients one day. This was still back in those Boone, North Carolina days. There was a very special performance at the university auditorium, dance performance. I forget exactly which one. Found out about it kind of late, was booked, wanted to honor the schedule I had with my clients. Couldn't go. 2 clients back to back call me for different reasons that they couldn't make it in that day, and we rescheduled. I called the box office. Sold out. Feeling in my heart to get ready and just walk over. I lived within walking distance of the auditorium, and just go. I felt so silly just walking up. I was so self-conscious inside myself, because I didn't have a ticket. And like, why am I just walking in? I'm walking up. I thought, well, I'll go to the box office. Who knows? Maybe this, maybe that, maybe the other. Maybe I'm meant to see someone. Maybe. I'm walking up to the box office, sorry. This woman is standing like on the sideline, and she goes, "Are you going to buy a ticket?" I said, "Oh, well, they're sold out, but I thought I'd check." She goes, "Here, take this one. I can't make it tonight, and I just wanted to gift someone."
Wow.
That's how I'm going to do my little mic drop.
I love it. So you got an unlimited taste of money and time.
And the next time I went to a performance, guess what I did? I was going by myself. I bought 2 tickets, and I gave one away in line to someone going to buy a ticket.
Sweet.
Time and money.
Time and money, we have enough. And if we perceive it as something that is just energy that can't be spent, that it just recycles over and over again in an infinite way, we'll then appreciate, like you're recycling with the dollar to the coffee lady and the ticket to someone in the future, this recycling of the energy that flows through the currency or flows through the time.
And the way you have been recycling your offerings and who you are, and just the joyfulness and health and spirit that you embody, Lisa, since you made especially that big change in your life, and how I see you just walk your talk and put it out in the world, professionally and otherwise. It is just not only beautiful, I admire you and I respect you so much. And I am so grateful that you are my friend, and we get to walk this walk together, reminding each other to surrender and trust. And we're both at another special turning point in our lives. And this just excites me that we are remembering how possible and how easy it is to shapeshift time and money, and to connect with a universe that is so creative and ready to provide.
Thank you, Iva.
Until next time.
Definitely.